Welcome to Graceful Healing, a podcast to get straight talk about healing and living again. My name is Maureen Lake. I'm a holistic health coach, speaker, author, and thyroid disease fighter. Each week, I'll be bringing you graceful conversations to inspire you to seek new ways to hit the reset button to catapult your health and vitality to new levels. Listen in and open your heart to all the new possibilities. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, everybody. This week's interview is a little bit longer than normal, but Erin's story deserves the time and so much more. Before I get to her journey, I want to mention that you have a fun opportunity to receive a cool gift from Graceful Healing if your review is selected and read on air. Don't miss this really fun chance to win a free prize from a selection of very, very fun choices. All you need to do is download and review Graceful Healing this week, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking a moment for us. Like I mentioned, this interview is a little bit longer than normal, but you know what? I was so intrigued by Erin's story and her three daughters' journey back to health that it was worth every single second. It's no wonder that Erin and her family now live life to the fullest. Erin is a personal trainer, empowerment coach, motivational speaker, and an athlete. Red Tricycle named her Mom on a Mission, while Alameda Magazine awarded her Best Personal Trainer. Erin's daughters transformed every aspect of her life. I can't wait for you to hear her dynamic story from heartbreak to joy. Are you ready? Let's do this. Today, I'm so excited to share with you my new guest, Erin Kreitz Shirey. She has an amazing story to share with us, and I can't wait for you to hear it. But not only does she have an amazing story, I'm just blown away by reading her bio, the fact that she's a personal trainer, used to run her own TV show, was named Mom on a Mission by Red Tricycle, and all these other taglines that you have that are just incredible for a young mom on a mission, basically. So, Erin, can you share with us your personal story and journey about how you landed where you are today? And I know that your message is going to just reach so many of my listeners, and I can't wait for you to share it.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, thank you for having me. I really am honored to be here right now and to share my story and hopefully help some other people out there. And I applaud you for doing your own podcast as well, because I know that takes a lot of work. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Because you're helping people out there. I'm a big podcast listener when I go running and hiking all the time. And so I applaud the efforts. I know it is not easy, but the journey behind it with sharing wonderful stories to help inspire others is quite a gift. So let's see, how did I get here? That's such a...
I know, it's a very open-ended question.
Okay, so I'll just give a little brief synopsis. My name is Erin Kreitz, as you said, and I am married to my husband, Jack. Actually, we just celebrated 15 years last month. And we have three daughters. Thank you. And we have three daughters, Mackenzie, Emerson, and Finley, who are 14, almost 10. My middle Emerson will be 10 in January. And then Finley turns 5, as she reminded me today, in 16 days. So she turns 5 very soon. She's on her countdown. It's really fun. But yes, I'm a mom to 3 girls who are amazing and wonderful, and all, as I call them, my own inspirators. And I will get into that, to what that is right now. So I was born and raised in Alameda, California. It's an island right by Oakland in the San Francisco Bay Area. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in California. I went to high school, a great, awesome high school, which I loved, a progressive Catholic high school called Bishop O'Dowd in Oakland, and was around a lot of inspiring teachers and professors. And I love it because of the fact that I just was, from the day one, around goal getters, I call it, and just people doing good things. So as time progressed, I just knew I wanted to continue to do good. And so when I was in high school, I actually had an eating disorder, and I'm a middle kid. I've got a family that I adore tremendously, an older sister and a younger brother, and my parents, and they've been married now for 48 years. They just celebrated their anniversary after Thanksgiving. And I had an eating disorder, and I was an athlete. I've always been an athlete, a lifelong athlete. And I realized that I wanted to empower other girls. At that time, I thought it was teenage girls, and it gradually evolved over the years to women, but to develop their self-esteem through sports and not other ways, and not suffer the pain that I did, that I wasn't good enough at that time, that I wasn't skinny enough or tiny enough or whatever it was. And by being an outgoing person, though, of course, masked the challenges I had with my own body at that time, because of just being outgoing and friendly. And again, like, being a middle kid, to where I just love people to be happy. And so throughout college, I got my degree in kinesiology, and have been in fitness now actually my birthday's on Monday. So it's kind of crazy that I say that, because I mark it around my birthday now. I've been in fitness for 23 years having been my first certification I got when I was 20. And so I realized in college, the whole thing was really developing self-esteem through athletics and continuing on with that journey. And I was in the college triathlon team. I got into triathlons at age 16. And they've been a saving grace for me ever since, because of the empowerment I felt, where I wasn't the best at each sport. And I'm a great runner, I'm a great swimmer, I'm a great cyclist. But when I blend them together, I'm able to take off with the endurance component and just the appreciation for each skill set. And I love it. And so I got into triathlons at 16 and raced for the college team. And as time progressed, just, fell in love with triathlon so very much. And after university, I went to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. And the joke was, it was a beach school, and I always thought that I was going to marry some surfer boy. And I ended up meeting my husband this all goes into the journey, quite honestly, but at a dear friend's engagement party. We were in our later 20s. I was shy of 27 and had just come back from living in Boston. I met him, and this explains a lot of who we are, but on a bet. He challenged me to a game of foosball, and the winner bought the loser lunch. Unbeknownst to me at that time, I was agreeing to a date with him without realizing any which way he was going to get a date out of me, because the winner buys a loser lunch. I was like, okay, really? So anyhow, fast forward, we get married and have our first child, Mackenzie, and she was a blessed surprise and the most amazing gift. And I found out, actually, I was pregnant with her when I was training for a half Ironman. I was like, why am I so tired? And it's because I was towards the end of my first trimester, and I had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's why these long runs are so tiring right now. It's not my normal, I'm like, why am I so tired on this run? This isn't normal for a long run. So anyhow, we had Mackenzie, and then at that time we lived in LA, and I was in corporate fitness down there, and I loved it. And I also knew I never wanted to go back to work after she was born for anybody else. I just couldn't miss spending time with her. Mm-hmm. And so we picked 5 cities and narrowed it to 2, and literally flipped a coin and moved to Portland, Oregon from LA, with the intent that I would start a fitness business for moms and babies by the time that she was 1. Mm-hmm. And so when up in Portland, I did that. Shy of her first birthday, I had a stroller fitness franchise, and I loved it. It was so much fun. It was creating a community. It was using my own strengths and skill set. It was empowering women with their self-esteem through sports in their pre- and postnatal time, which is a time full of many emotions, similar to teenagers, quite honestly, and teenage girls, and self-esteem issues. And I just really got to, honestly, I just have the best time. I loved it. I loved that chapter of life. And it opened me up also to what my own potential was in the leadership capacities, which I knew, but I didn't realize how much with being part of a franchise as well. So I became the director of fitness. I was, on the advisory board the whole time for the franchise. And I loved the business side of it too, the marketing, the business, the connecting of businesses together, and really creating that business community of supporting other female entrepreneurs, and was part of these founding mom-owned businesses at that time. Because again, this was 14 years ago, 13 years ago, 12 years ago, over that time period. Gradually, we progressed towards now. And it was a movement. It was so much fun because we were part of this mom-owned business movement. And I was able to facilitate a lot of it through my stroller fitness business. And so at that time, as I shared in high school, that went to Bishop O'Dowd, and a big part of it, especially in a Catholic school, is philanthropy and giving back. And that's always been a foundation. So part of my business, and so it's ironic when it comes down to what happens, which I'll get to with my own girls, is I always said that, I host these fundraiser stroller fitness classes. that would raise money for charities and organizations that affect moms and kids. And often they were the hospitals, some like pediatric hospitals and or the shelters that would help support. So I'm like, okay, if I can't, I would love to write a check always, for say $100,000 to any organization just to give back. But I can't always do that by myself, but I can empower other people to use their body to help others. It sounds kind of weird, kind of naughty almost, but in reality, I can make you sweat and we can all give back together, right? Fundraising benefit classes. And so I did that, and it was very fun because especially with the relationships I built up in the community, it created these different movements of these classes that at one annual Mother's Day class, there were over 125 women there with their strollers. And I had myself and my team of instructors out there and the news crews and everybody, but we were raising money for the pediatric hospital.
Oh, wow.
And it was so amazing because it was giving back to these moms to where they had this wonderful experience. It's a great class, community, high-fiving each other as they're exercising. The kids are having a fun time. And the team of 8 instructors that I had at that time as part of my business, we were all taking different groups out. We had the best time ever. And then I was able to highlight the different companies just by having raffles, and all the money went back to the hospital. So to get on with it, during that time period, I had Mackenzie, and then 3 years, 9 months later, Emerson was born. She was a winter baby. And as I shared, she's almost 11. January 25th is her birthday. And when she was 7 weeks old, she got pneumonia, pertussis, and RSV. And it was right after I had pneumonia myself, fortunately when I was postnatal. And so Emerson was in the hospital. She got rushed to the hospital, and they had told us to pray hard because she was so, so sick. So she went from almost 10 pounds down to 7 pounds in a matter of, goodness, that was within like 2 weeks, which is a lot of weight for a little baby.
Yeah.
And because of it being pertussis too, which is whooping cough, it was really, really scary. And she was suddenly, in all these different tubes, and it was amazing because that community component that I built up within my business actually beautifully came back to support me and just said, Erin, don't worry about it. What can we do? How can we help you? And our tribe came together, and they would just bring us dinner and have Mackenzie go on fun play dates and allow us to be at the hospital with Emerson to help support her. And really, they were amazing. Anyhow, gratefully, as I shared, Emerson's going to be 11. And at that time, here's a little side note to that experience as well. So she was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and she was sent home for 24 hours in that time period. I didn't feel she was ready to go back home. But the doctor's like, no, she's strong enough. I think she is. Well, I don't know. I don't think she's strong enough. But you listen to the medical field, right? Because you're in a hospital. And within that 24 hours that she was sent home, my dad unexpectedly had this heart issue that popped up, and my mom was up to help us out in Portland. So my mom had to fly back to the Bay Area. And then we went back to the hospital that next day because Emerson shouldn't have been home from the hospital. And my dad actually was in the hospital and had a heart surgery in the Bay Area, all while we were up in the port. It was this crazy, what, boom, boom, boom. What? This is crazy. How is this all happening at once? And so at that time, we spent St. Patrick's Day and Easter in the hospital, and she came home, and they kept saying continuously, pray for her to get stronger, keep working hard, make it to her first birthday. So at her first birthday, we were above and beyond so blessed and so grateful that she made it to 1. And she is such a force to be reckoned with and here for a reason. And she has no complications post at all. They thought she might have asthma or something. She actually is this vibrant, amazing kick tush soccer player who is going to be a fearless leader some way. She just walks into the room and lights it up. She is amazing. And so as I share, Emerson was our first of actually 3 medical miracles. And so fast forward a few years, we decided that our time when the economy turned, that my husband's a recruiter. And so I sold the stroller fitness business, and at that time, actually started another co-ed boot camp, was on the TV show, which I had shared as a pre and postnatal fitness editor for Better TV. It actually wasn't my show. I was the editor for the show. So they had these different editors on it. And I was on the show once it got launched nationally. I was actually picked up as part of the team that was launched nationally. So that was so much fun. That was all part of the Portland chapter, and had, these columns in many magazines and all this fun stuff. Like, I loved what I did professionally, but I love my kids more. And so when we left Portland, moved back to the Bay Area, which we were both from, we thought it would be for 1 to 3 years originally. And we went back to the Bay Area. And I started my boot camp business again with a Mother's Day class. That's a common theme for myself. Every year I have a Mother's Day class. But that was a launch date for it was a women's boot camp, a fitness and empowerment camp in the Bay Area. And we moved back to where I was from to Alameda. And I launched it in that first class. Actually, it was so much fun. I looked around, there were 50 women at the launch date class. I know we had just moved back. I was like, this is amazing. Because coming back as an adult to where you're raised as a kid is a whole different story. And you're starting all over again as an adult. And it was wonderful. We're right on the water. It was amazing. We started this new chapter. Then 9 months in, our Mackenzie decided to, once we were settled, Mackenzie decided to give us a bit of a surprise. I actually went back to Portland to visit that business network that I was part of, those mom-owned businesses. There was an event going on, and I was like, well, I'm going to go see my girlfriends, couple, girlfriend days, and flew back to Portland. And as I'm on the trails running with one of my girlfriends, I'm like, something's off with Mackenzie. I know she has stomach flu, but it feels worse than that. Because Jack had called me saying she had stomach flu. So I was like, well, there's something in my gut. Again, listening to your mom gut, something's off. So I call Jack again. Do I need to fly home earlier? No, she's okay. I'm like, something just feels off. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to, my flight's in a couple of hours. I'll see you, when I get back home. She had already been to the doctors because she had this stomach flu. And they thought it was a 24-hour bug. By the time I got back to the Bay Area, my mom was with her, so Jack could go to work. I walked into the house and she didn't recognize me. And she looked at me as if I was an alien. And her eyes were massively dilated. And she was actually foaming at the mouth was sweating, but cold. And she was on all this medicine to where, like, as I walked to my mom, like, this just started. You need to go. I'm like, Mom, I need to go. And I said, we need to go to Children's Hospital. And the pediatrician had just seen her a few hours before and prescribed Zofran, which is the nausea medicine for her. Because it was just a 24-hour window. She hadn't been throwing up, like kids get stomach bug, you get dehydrated, something like that. But unfortunately for Mackenzie's case, it was a lot worse than that. And so we rushed to the ER. And as we're in the ER, as we're taking her vitals, she had a seizure in my arms. And at this point, she still isn't recognizing anything. She actually looked like a little alien almost. I mean, her eyes were so dilated and she was looking all around. And it was so surreal, Maureen. It was the craziest experience. And so she had the seizure in my arms. They rushed her into the ER. And they start putting all these tubes in her. They put in the IVs. They put in these drains. Her stomach was completely distended for having been vomiting so much. And they asked me so many different questions, had she been bit by a dog? Has she been this? What happened? Was she bit by a bat? I'm like, wait, no, she was homesick with a stomach flu. Because we hang out with bats all the time. And so, and no, we don't have a dog. And no, if that did happen, no, I would have reported that. But so it was crazy because they didn't know. And so I'm rubbing her leg and trying to soothe her and hoping that she's even hearing my voice, that she was even aware that this is her mother who loves her because she didn't recognize me. And at this time she was 6.5 years old and she was on that table just looking around, but so scared, right? Just so completely scared as any child would be, but not even aware that she was scared because everything was off. Well, come to it. And they, checked her they did the spinal tap and everything. And they kept calling for more and more doctors to come into the room because they weren't sure what was going on with this child. And then they started realizing that all of her organs had broken down and they were breaking down one by one. And so she was they put many different tubes and they entered an NJ tube, which is a nasal jejunum tube, which goes through your nose down and to feed you. And she kept vomiting continuously. And she had IV hooked up and they put in a PICC line, which is automatically in a different way to get fluids and medicine into your system. And after a while in that, they gradually transferred her to the ICU where she had her own spot, but was on isolation because of all the vomiting and them not knowing what was going on. So they would have to come in with face masks on and the coats, and only immediate family could be in with her at that time. And they were and this is children, it's a pediatric, one of the highest pediatric hospitals in the country because we're in the Bay Area too, which was very fortunate because of medical care, but they didn't know what it was. And so gradually every day it was more and more labs and everything. And they found out that she had internal bleeding going on, just all these different things that you would never wish upon anybody, period, your worst enemy. And so she finally came back to recognize me 2 days later. So during that time period too, I didn't know, if she was ever going to recognize me again, what was going on? Did she have brain damage? Was she going to die? Because I kept saying, pray hard, pray hard. We don't think she's going to make it. And it all started with stomach, she had stomach flu. And so freak craziness ended up that she had multi-organ failure and acute pancreatitis. And so her pancreas, in essence, was necrotizing itself. So it was just eating itself. And the pancreas is a highly sensitive organ. And so it was, if you go in to do anything to the pancreas, it actually gets angrier and will continue to necrotize, which is not good because it can continue, in essence, eating away at itself. And it's not a regenerating organ. And the pancreas is used for many different functions of your body. And for pancreatitis, what's interesting is that is actually what adult alcoholics get. So we joke around like, well, dude, we're Irish, but we're not that Irish. Come on now. Because you have to make light. When you have crazy situations, you have to have some humor somewhere. You have to be able to. So every nurse that came in, we would just enjoy. And Mackenzie, gratefully, she's such an amazing, we call her Miracle Mackenzie from the beginning. As I shared, she was a blessed surprise. And she is also here to be, a force to be reckoned with, and so amazing and beautiful and wonderful. And at that time was so very scared since they didn't know. And they had to check her labs every day because what happened was she had all these organs broken down, but then she kept getting every infection. And so if there was an infection, she would, and they, once it would get cured, there'd be another infection. So her body was just not even allowed to get stronger as hard as it was fighting. So she went from 55 pounds down to 32.
Oh my God.
And so fast. And my girls have all got strong tushies on them, I'm going to say. And to see her tiny little body, I was like, her tushy, oh my goodness, she's so skinny. I'd never seen my child so tiny. It was crazy. And her spirit, though, was the most amazing part to where all this was going on. And she would charm the socks off of anybody. She is our lawyer by nature. She's into fashion and makeup now, but she would negotiate any single thing when they're like, we have to do this lab. No, how about you do it after I watch this show? How about, she would just try and negotiate once she got her wits back to her again. And I was like, yes, that's the fighting spirit that you need, though, to fight for your life right now, have this strength. And so at that time, she was at Children's Hospital, and they didn't quite know what to do with the surgery because I'd never had a patient like Mackenzie before. And as they had revived back, her liver, her kidneys, her lungs, everything, as all the organs were gradually brought back, she developed a pseudocyst, which is a big, massive infection that was developed, and they needed to drain it from her pancreas. And so there's this procedure to be done to drain it into her stomach. And it's this massive procedure that they had never done at the pediatric hospital before. So they had referred us over to the adult hospital in San Francisco. And I knew, though, in my heart that I was like, let me just get a second opinion. I need a second opinion because nobody here has done this before. This is my child. We need to have a second opinion. So being an advocate for your kid is one of the most important things in the world. And so I advocate for her continuously, day after day after day. And with my dad's healthcare, because he had that unexpected heart issue, we knew UCSF. So I got a second opinion at UCSF, and she was home with us I got her to be home with us so I can be her nurse for Halloween. And so she was able to be at home at Halloween with her NJ tube and everything, just to see her friends, just to feel normal for a little bit, knowing we'd have to go back to the hospital for these surgeries and everything else. And the fact that, we made it to Halloween, I just not knowing what was around the corner, if she was going to make it or not, I didn't care. I just wanted to have my kid have some fun and all of us have some fun. And also Emerson at that time, was 2.5, shy of 3, and just have her have some fun with her sister too, because they were so very close, and to have them be able to just have time together outside the hospital. And so I was her nurse and would bring her back to the hospital every day also. But I would work with her at J-tube and work with her IVs and stuff at home. And I'm not a nurse, but I would just in essence be her mom nurse per se to allow her to come home. And so during that time period home, we got a second opinion at UCSF, and they actually never let her go home. They said, she can't go back home with you. She's so very sick that she has to stay here, and she can't get operated on right now, actually, because she has internal bleeding going on still. So it was by the grace of God, because she were to have been operated. They would have done more labs before the operation at the adult hospital, and they would have found that out themselves. But heaven forbid if she wouldn't be here now if that were to have happened. And so she stayed at UCSF in San Francisco. We went back and forth to San Francisco, and they hadn't done a procedure like this, but they referenced 2 other pancreas hospitals, pediatric pancreas hospitals in the country. And their specialist is one that worked with neonatal surgery. So while they're in utero, it's amazing, and helped with this procedure with Mackenzie. And she had the surgery done. And with her infection rate, unfortunately, it didn't take. So I had to go back in again and do it again. Mind you, this is a long-waited version for one kid. I apologize. But it was what happened during this time period was the fact that, one, it taught us never to give up. It taught us to embrace life's challenges. It was a Gaelic phrase that my husband took on, which translates to embrace life's challenges. So we say ELC. It taught us to make every day fun, regardless of how cruddy it is. So we would do hospital IV races with other kids down the hallways, like the other moms and I, like, let's go race down the hallways. We'd pull the kids in wagons holding their IV poles and just run up and down the hallway, just trying to have fun and have light of the craziest of challenges that you're faced with. And with Emerson, when my mom would bring her to the hospital, I'd take off. And this is where the triathlete in me was so appreciative for having been a runner, as I'd go for long runs with her throughout San Francisco, over to Crissy Field to see the sea lions, just to escape and sometimes just cry on the beach where nobody would know me, and just secretly pray to not go back. So as if this was my normal versus the hospital life being my normal. And it was very hard though, too, because the questions when running into people, when going back home to just get a change of clothes, and would flip flop who would spend the night with Mackenzie. Majority it was me, 75%, 90, 80% was about me at the hospital spending the nights, but sometimes Jack would as well on the weekends, so he could be there on the weekends, and then I could spend the nights with Emerson. On the weekends, Emerson lived with my parents at that time, so we could focus on Ken's. But we just wanted that downtime. It was so challenging. I have to say that I was running into people because what happened? And also, what did you do? And they're so scared themselves, thinking since there was no answer. And the thing is with medicine is often there's no answer why something happens. It's not the why, it's how you get to the end result and making your life even better for that, whatever that is, and how horrible and challenging any situation is. Because medicine, there isn't an answer so often as to the why. You want the answer so it can let you know not to have it happen again. But, with Emerson, she was a winter baby, and we lived in Portland. A lot of people don't vaccinate. So that could be the case where she was 7 weeks old. So she had, hadn't gotten those 8-week vaccinations yet. So that's why she most likely got it somewhere, picked up somehow. I was very aware of her being a winter baby. With Mackenzie, there's no rhyme or reason. It was a stomach flu that somehow transpired into this. But it's how she was able to be so magical, and how we also had her life just try to be as best as it possibly was with every challenge. I mean, every single time that she was, every procedure, any single thing with it. And so, and Emerson as well, to make it fun when we were home with her, to just allow her to be shy of 3. And when she was scared, to allow her to be scared and ask questions, because they're so close. Why, my sister have all these tubes. What does it mean? Will she come home? Sure. And we didn't have those answers. So blessed for us, she actually came home right before Christmas. And fortunately, she has had a few complications since, but has been amazing, and is now almost 15. She's 14 and a half and a freshman in high school. And so it's amazing, because the fact that what that did, though, with her being at the hospital, is actually she is one of the kids in the founding team of a pancreas team that UCSF now has. They actually have a pancreas clinic at UCSF. And was asked to be on one of their boards to, help just provide answers. And she's fortunate that 14 now, she's prone, she's been prone to diabetes, prone to all these different things. So she'll never be able to drink alcohol as an adult or smoke or anything, which we don't want her to do anyway. I mean, alcohol, of course, but smoking, no, not at all. And even marijuana, they used to prescribe medical marijuana to people with pancreatitis, and now they found it actually causes pancreatitis. And so she's going to be a very clean teen and adult, which, so as Erin, I'm like, thank you. That's all you want for your kid anyway. But she's also prone, they say 75% chance she'll get pancreatic cancer, which is a very deadly cancer. And for us, we say it's a 25% chance that she doesn't, and we focus on the 25% chance. And so during that time, what was amazing we found out as a family is just how one, the community again, our community came out in full force to support us. We're so fortunate with family, friends, businesses, everybody. And it was amazing. And that we passed that on continuously to the hospitals, and that we learned how the hospital life, how it affects not just the child there, but every single person. Oh, I'm tearing up. I haven't talked about this for a little bit. Sorry. That's so unexpected. Totally unexpected right now. I was just thinking back. So it was at this time, years ago. But think about the family factor, that people often don't realize how it affects the siblings, how it affects the parents, everybody. So anyhow, we were amazed and blessed, and we knew we always wanted a third kid, but I had to get my own life back in order. And this is going a lot longer, Maureen, than I had planned on. I'm so sorry. Just at the time, I was like, oh my goodness gracious, I'm so sorry. And I know when I listen to podcasts myself and people are asked a question, they can keep going, but you don't realize how your story, though, just evolves, And so I knew that I also wanted to, through that hospital time, just really get back and inspire women to take care of themselves so they can take care of everybody else, and to really own their time right now, and to also own their time with their families, to live their dreams and live their adventures. And so I stepped into some bigger goals again, to get back into TV, back into that part that I'd said no to continuously because of Mackenzie, and for fear of leaving her and Emerson and their and the what ifs if I were to be gone, because I was gone when Mackenzie got sick. And I started saying yes to some things. And then I was like, okay, once I said yes to a couple of things, it was the fall of 2012. Then I was like, okay, now we can get pregnant. And I found out I was pregnant with Finley, our third daughter, actually right after I had run this slow half marathon again, racing. And I was pregnant, and I actually had placed 8th female at that race. So I was like, okay, well, that was a great race to end on. That was a good one. And I was 8th female, slow half. And then I found out that I was 6 weeks pregnant. So, this is great. So anyhow, Finley was born then December. So she and Emerson are almost 6 years apart. And people often ask if she was a surprise. I'm like, actually, she is the one that is so not a surprise. We need to have some normal downtime after Mackenzie was home to make sure that Mackenzie was safe, make sure that all of us as a family, to get our family life back to whatever the new normal was. And all we wanted was a normal, healthy child. And when Finley was 9 months old, because everyone's like, you want a boy? We're like, no, we just want a healthy kid. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Finley was 9 months old. Unfortunately, she presented different things and started vomiting continuously and couldn't keep her food down, and started just, getting every infection on her son. A child would get a fever. She would be at 105. She was now the hospital. And they didn't know what was going on with her. And because of Mackenzie and Emerson, they tested her for so many different things, and including cancer, cystic fibrosis. I mean, all these different things. And yet she's this delightful little kid, would smile nonstop, but not able to. There's a medical term, failure to thrive. Yes. And you're like, right? And so that was Finley, yet she just looked tiny, and she was my tiniest baby, but there was they didn't know what was off. And fast forward 3 years, a surgery, and many, being her advocate, find out what is it, what's next. And also never going, if they say take a test, never going to the extreme for the test, knowing they just have to rule stuff out. And that is a blessing in having gone through everything with Mackenzie, to where if they said you're testing for cancer, I'm like, okay, we don't know it's cancer until we get a yes. We don't know it's cystic fibrosis until we get a yes. We don't know it's this. So don't even think about the what ifs, because of the fact that it's a ruling out period. And so it doesn't mean it wasn't scary. It was very challenging. Sure. But so because of what we had gone through, I say Emerson prepared us for Mackenzie. Mackenzie prepared us for Finley. And by the time we got to Finley, we're like, okay, what's next? What's next? Just like a checkoff list. Okay, let's keep her healthy. Let's keep food down her. What's going on? So finally, a few years in, after another procedure, they went in and did a scope into her, and they found she has tons of eosinophils in her stomach, which are allergy cells, interestingly enough, that are normally around your throat. She has them all in her stomach. And so she is no dairy, gluten, or soy. And she may possibly outgrow this, but she has eosinophilic colitis, they call it. And so it's easy to say that part right now, but at that time they didn't know. And it was just all these different things. They comparing it to if it was going to be a pancreas issue or things like that. And all the genetic stuff that had to be done was pretty amazing. But the flip side, she is a feisty, almost 5-year-old, fearless Finny, we call her. And Emerson, when I was pregnant with Finley, she had actually, the Inspirator part that I had said, she had been like, I was doing boot camps in the backyard, like just training for my early morning class the next morning. And I was 7.5 months pregnant and doing a whole bunch of burpees and She's like, Mom, and she's riding around. She's in kindergarten, and she's my wordsmith. And she's like, Mama, you're an inspirator. I said, what's an inspirator? She goes, you're an inspiration and motivator one. And if you can do all those burpees with that big belly, your boot campers have no excuse. And I was like, oh, immediately I wrote down that word and I changed my entire business to Inspirator Coaching and Fitness. And the passion now is to inspire everyone to be their own inspirator. And
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, so that brings us now to the dream life part, to where we moved from the Bay Area to Boise last year. And we knew it was a 2-year process. Where are we moving to next? And we didn't know where it was. And we want to get back to the Pacific Northwest. And we want to both work from home because we know our time with our kids is the most precious thing ever. And so now we both work from home and move to Boise last year. It's a big leap of faith. And are living our dream life now with our 3 girls who are all thriving, and we do not miss a beat because we know that anything can happen at any time and you just have to be in the moment. So that brings us to boom today. Boy, that was like the longest. I'm so sorry. Cut in. I should have said cut in anytime. Because I was trying to remember everything is the hardest piece, right? To where what has brought us to today. So many things.
Yeah.
So many. Yeah.
It's a beautiful story. It's crazy that you had to experience all that. I mean, I know I have 3 children and my middle son got really, really ill around 18 months old, where they thought he had leukemia and all this other stuff, had to wear a helmet for almost a year. And it was really his body stopped making platelets due to a virus. But I can't even imagine. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart because I know how difficult that time was for me and for us, having something like that with all 3 of my children. Your strength must be incredible, just incredible. So I give my hats off to you because I can't even imagine. I can't.
Thank you. What's interesting is actually with Finley, because that was a big challenge too, is Finley and Mackenzie. I mean, her platelets were off the charts. I mean, her white count was like crazy, fighting like mad, right? But with Finley, it was so crazy. It's her platelets they kept, her numbers were off the charts crazy. So they tested her for cancer so many different times. And it was how her body responded to infections in a different way. I mean, they were just blown away. Like, how does this child have these numbers when it doesn't make sense? I'm like, well, we make kids that don't make sense, but they make sense to us, So, what can you do, And so it's interesting because with Inspirator Coaching and Fitness, I'm a motivational speaker, and I go around and I talk to, and I work with a lot of business owners now, to female entrepreneurs, to own their time and to own their life, create their dream life in their business, work the hours they love, and with their foundation being health is their wealth, right? To where your health is your foundation, so you can take care of yourself, take care of everybody else, but also so you can really live that dream life that you crave for and you want to, and you talk about, but are you truly living it and being present? And it's interesting because in the hospital, all you can do is be present.
Right.
There is no other place when your kid is there. There is no other place. There's places you might want to be, right? Like you, of course, want to be, say, in Hawaii on a beach with healthy children, but your reality is you just want to be right there in that moment, taking in any expression, any words, anything at all. And that, as I'm saying this, I'm actually looking at a picture of my girls that we took on Saturday. That's our Christmas card picture, and how I feel so blessed because the lessons that we learn when you say the strength part are some that they've learned as well. They are all so present, and we travel so much as a family. We know to live life right now versus putting things off, and to go for big goals, even if they're scary. And it's really, I feel so grateful for, as cruddy as everything has been, I feel so very grateful, honestly, for it, because yes, we are on the other side, but we've learned so much on this other side. And so, yeah. And there's, Mackenzie especially, like I said, the 25%, and we do go on that fact that no, we've got 25%, she won't get it. But of course, I would be a liar to say that doesn't pop into my head, And so, yeah. But anyhow, so yeah.
And I would venture to guess the fact that you take such good care of yourself, and you're, obviously an athlete, but that health is important. Just like you said, health is your wealth. That must have really got you through some tough times as well. Just knowing that you could, whenever you had a half hour or whatever, you could go out and run and get some kind of stress reduction, or however you chose to to get your exercise in. That's just so huge because it's so easy to forget about you, right? Because you're caring so hard for your child.
Yeah, it's, and that's actually where I say even the triathlon component and the foundation of that, because I would every day, and my husband's a big athlete as well. And it's actually part of, when we were dating, we'd go running together, and he's a massive soccer player and a great athlete, and he loves running and so I would actually, what I would do at the hospital is I put my headphones in and I would go to the stairs and I would just run up and down the stairs and just escape, right, for 20 minutes. And I could leave if she was asleep, I could leave for 20 to 30 minutes and with a nurse there. But I always, just my own mom part, I know it was just, I just had to have somebody be there just in case, because she was vomiting, especially when she was vomiting so much, right? Because it was so heartbreaking. But so, yeah, we call it workout windows. When you have a window, take advantage of that workout window. And also, quite honestly, when she was asleep, I would work out in her hospital room too. You don't need that much space. Like I do tease my clients in New York. You've got a self studio. We can work out in your studio. No, it's no space. No, you have space. Let's make it happen. Work with what you have, not with what you don't have, right? We can all wish for some massive gym, but if you don't have that, you do with what you have. And I'll never forget, there's one fun night, actually. At that time, UCSF was right across from Kezar Stadium, which is now it's on the water. But I went across to go run at the track and do stairs at the track. And my buddy, actually from triathlon, he had a track practice going on that night with the city team. And I got to join them that night. And my splits were so fast because I was able to take out so much aggression on. And I was around other athletes too. We're all on doing track work. And I was so happy to just have that hour that I walked into the hospital, just said, oh, thank you so much. Thank you, God, for having that be the time that I got a window to go to the track, however that was planned out, because seeing him that night then allowed me to find out what's the schedule. Okay, I'm going to try and make it work for me to have this break then at this time period to meet you guys at least twice a week while we're at the, when we were at San Francisco, because being around other people while sweating too, not just yourself, that was amazing too.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah. And having somebody else tell you what to do.
Exactly. You could just not have to think.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So I have one final question for you, and I ask all my guests this, and so here it is for you. If you could give your younger self some advice, what would it be? If you could go back in time and just knowing what you know now.
Oh, holy smokes.
I know it's a hard one.
I would tell my younger self that you are enough and you have everything in you that you need in order to be the best version of you every single day.
And that came true, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've heard that question asked before, and I've never actually thought of it for myself, yet I've asked other people that question. Right? And so, yeah, that's what I would say. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you for being on the show. Your story is so powerful and inspirational and gut-wrenching at the same time. It really is. There's so much golden nuggets you have embedded into this story that I can't wait for the listeners to hear it.
Oh, thank you. If anything, what I would love for people to just think about is how really just to own your time right now, and whatever you're in the midst of, be in the midst of it and know that you're doing the best job you possibly can. Mm-hmm. As we use the phrase Inspirator, it's my whole business is Inspirator coaching and fitness, but to where how you are your own Inspirator, where you have to look within and you've got it. As hard as it is, you've got it to power through whatever that challenge is.
Beautiful. Thank you, Erin. Thank you so much.
It is a pleasure. Thank you so very much. And congratulations on your show.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today. This episode is brought to you by my book, The Graceful Advocate, Taking Control of Your Life After a Diagnosis of Thyroid Disease. You can find it currently on Amazon. I love it because my friends call it a purse book. They keep it with them when they go to the pharmacy, grocery store, or even to the doctor's office. It's a great little guide to keep you on track and informed. I can't wait for next week when I get to see you back on the pod. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate you so much. If you ever need someone to chat with about your healing journey, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me through my website at maureenlake.com.